one, we're going to go ahead and add in the background images to the scene. We'll take a look at the different properties available to resize, reduce the alpha, and position it on the grid floor. We'll also just quickly take a look at the orthographic options and enabling double-sided view. Okay, so let's get started. Before we begin to add the background images, there's a couple of little changes I want to make. And the first is over here in the scene tab. So this tab here under units, I want to switch this back from millimeters to meters. So I just want the units displayed in meters. And the second thing I want to change, if I press and hold the middle mouse button and I rotate around, you can see that it jumps into a perspective. Now we were in an orthographic, and that's a setting that we can update in user preferences. So I'm going to come up here to edit, down to preferences. In the navigation tab here, I'll uncheck auto perspective and I'll press the X here just to X that down. I can press 3 again and 5 to come into a orthographic view. And now if I press and hold the middle mouse button, it keeps me in a orthographic view. So I'm just going to press 1 for front view here. And the first thing I want to do is just have this cube represent the average height of a person, which is approximately 1.8 meters. So over here in the Z-axis, I'll left click in here and type in 1.8, press enter. And I might just press G and X and just drag this across here. Just make room for the images. So I'll press Shift A for the add menu, and down here under image, I'm going to choose background. Now I'm going to come to where I have these on my computer. You'll find these images in the resource folder of the course in a folder called assets. So you can download those, unzip them, and we can add them in. So I'll switch the viewing type here to thumbnail. The first one I want is this front view, so I can select it, come up here and choose load background image. Now, as we can see, the image is much larger than the actual cube. So what we want to do is just resize it. And what I'm looking to do, if I zoom out here a little bit, is have his head line up with the top of the cube here and his feet line up with the base. So I'm going to come over to the image properties over here, select this, and in the size, I can left click and drag and reduce this in height, approximately 1.7 for the moment. I'll then want to move this up in the Y, so I can use the Y offset here and just click and drag in here and just drag this up and left click, get that approximately in position. The other thing I'm going to do is enable the alpha here, and that way we can see the red line of the grid floor through the image. And I'll also reduce the transparency, so I'll click in here and type in 0.5, press enter, and that helps tone down the image a little bit. You can reduce that more if you like, but I'll be happy enough with 0.5. So now if I zoom in over here, right into his feet here, what I'm going to do is put these up on the grid floor. So I'll come over to the offset again, press and hold shift this time, and left click and drag. And as you hold shift, you get smaller increments on the movement. I'll left click, I'm going to zoom in a little bit further. Make sure that he's sitting exactly on the line there, so I can fine tune that just to make sure that I'm happy with his position. So that looks pretty good. I'll zoom back out here. The next thing I want to do then is bring his head approximately down to the top of this cube. So I'll select this cube, press GX, just drag this back across here. Left click, I'll press Z, bring up wireframe shading, and that way we can see through the cube. So if I zoom in here a little bit, select the image again, I can come over to the size, left click and drag, and just reduce this a little bit. And left click, maybe a little bit more, and just have his hair slightly up above. That looks pretty good. So what we can do then, when we're happy with the height of this character, we can actually copy this size here. So I'll click in here and Control C to copy that. It's 2.23 meters. I'll also come up here to the outliner, double click the camera collection. I'm just going to rename this to background images and press enter. I can expand this here. I'll select the cube now, and in the 3D view, I'll just press delete, just to delete it. I'll select the empty object, which is our background image. I'll double click, and I'll call this front view, and press enter. Now I also have some of my widgets switched off here, so I'm going to switch these back on. So the selectability, the disable in viewport, and the render. Okay, and I'm going to minimize this. So now I can use this option here and just make this background image unselectable in the viewport. So I can't accidentally select it and move it because it's in exactly the position I want to keep it in for the entire project. I don't want to accidentally move this out of position. So one other thing I just want to quickly look at, if I press and hold the middle mouse button and come around here, you can see that we can't actually see the character at the back. Now in some cases you do want to see the character. Now you can come over to the image properties here and click on both, and that way you see both sides of the image. And that can be very useful when you're working from the back view occasionally. So you have that option there. The other option is to display it in perspective or orthographic. In most cases we'll be working in an orthographic view, and I find perspective can be a little bit intrusive at times. So for example, if I switch off orthographic and I switch on perspective, now if I come up here we can take a look and just see that we're actually currently in an orthographic view. If I press numpad 5 or I click on this little button here, which switches me from perspective to orthographic, in a perspective view, that's when we can see the image. So for example, if I press 1 for front view and 5 for an orthographic, we can't see the image. So it's not much use to us in a front view. So I'm going to toggle off perspective and just leave it set to orthographic. Okay, there's another option up here for depth. We're not going to be worried too much about it. If you want the image sitting in front of objects in the scene, you can change that to front, but I'm going to leave it set to back. Okay, so let's take a look at adding the side view image. So I'll press numpad 3. From here, I'll press Shift A, and under image, I'll choose background image. This time I want the side view, so I can select it and load background image. Again, this comes into the scene quite large. So over here in the size, I'm going to click in here and Control V in my size, which is 2.23 meters. Press enter. That reduces that down. I can click on the alpha, click into transparency and set this to 0.5. For the offset, I can click and drag in here and zoom in and see if I can line it up. But the best thing to do is come up to the front view, select that. I can click in the Y offset here, Control C to copy that. Come back up to my side view image, and actually first off I'll just double click and rename this to side view. Press enter, and in here in the offset I'll left click, Control V and paste that in. So that way I know that my side view image is now lined up exactly at the same position on the Z axis as the front, and it's also exactly the same size. Okay, so finally let's add in the top image. I'll press 7 for top view. Can maybe pan this over. Shift A, under image I'll choose a background. I can double click this to add these either, so I'll double click top view. I'll come over to the Y offset, Control V, press enter. I'll click on use alpha and put in a value of 0.5, and for the size I know it's 2.23 meters, so 2.23, press enter. Okay, and that's our images in the scene. I'm going to press and hold the middle mouse button. Just zoom out here a little bit. Now I'm going to come up here and just double click the empty, rename this then to top view. Press enter. I do want to move it up in the view just to have it sitting on top. So I'll press G and Z and just drag that up there. So it's kind of above these images. Okay, I'll also select the side image and move this out on the X. So GX, and just drag this across to the side here. And left click. Now if I want to see this image both sides, I can come over here and check on both. Okay, and that might be useful from time to time. I can also do the same thing with the top image. Click on this and set it to both. And finally, I'll make these unselectable in the viewport because right now they're in exactly the right position. They're scaled correctly and they're ready to begin modeling with. And one more thing I do need to do. So if I press 3 for side view and I zoom in over here, what I want to do is actually line up the character's tip of his nose with this blue line, which will represent, if I rotate around here, which represents the front view of the character. So I'll press 3 again. I'll come back up here and I'll uncheck the make this unselectable. I can select it and I'm just going to manually drag this back. So I'll press G and Y and just drag this back in the Y axis. I can left click. I can zoom in here a little bit more. Press G, Y, drag that back and just line that up approximately here. Now this will be important when we are shaping the profile of the character's face. So you do want that very accurately placed here. So I'm just going to maybe drag this back in a little bit. Okay, I'll be happy enough with that. So I can zoom back out. The other thing we can do is actually line up the nose of the character then into the same position and line it up with the red line here. So again, I can come back up here, make the top view selectable. I can select it, press 7. Just pan this over, G and Y. Just drag this over roughly for the moment. Left click and then I can zoom in and just get this accurately into position. So again, press G and Y and drag this forward and left click. Okay, I'd be happy enough with that. So now we're sure that the images are the same scale. They're in the same starting position in terms of the character's face, and we're all set then to begin modeling. And then finally I can just come up here and just make these unselectable in the viewport. Okay, and for the moment I'm going to leave it there for this one. We're going to begin and shape out some of the character's forms from front view using a mesh plane. So let's get started. The first thing I want to do then is add in a mesh plane. So for the add menu, you can either press Shift A or you can come up here to the add menu here, and under mesh you can choose plane. Now this comes in lying down flat on the grid, so what we need to do is rotate it in the x-axis so it stands up and faces us. Now you can do that over here with the rotation, so you can click and drag, or you can left click. In this case I want this to be 90, so I'll just type in 90, press enter. So that's facing forward along the y-axis. So if we come into front view now, this is facing us. The other thing I want to do is move this up in the z-axis. So I can either come up here and in the z location I can left click and drag, and just drag this up, maybe approximately position it there. You can also press G to move it, press Z to restrict it to the Z-axis, and you can move it along that axis. And left click then just to confirm its position. When we added this plane in, I can see up here in the outliner, it's come into the background image collection. And I'd like just to keep our mesh objects in a separate collection. So back here in the 3D view with the plane selected, I'm going to press M for the move to collection menu and just choose new collection. I can name this then, and I'm just going to call this maybe character. Press enter and click OK. So now up here in the outliner we have a new collection called character, and inside is the plane object. Now we could begin to name these, but because we'll be combining different objects, it's probably best just to leave it unnamed for the moment, and as we combine the character at the final stages we'll eventually name them correctly. So back in the 3D view I'll press tab to come into edit mode. I'm going to press A to select everything and press S to scale this down, and I can maybe just zoom in here and take a closer look at this. So I'll just pan over here, scale this right down, maybe approximately here for the moment. So one thing before we move forward, it's important that the origin point of this plane has remained at center, and that is it's lined up with the blue line of the z-axis there, and that just allows us then to delete half of this cube and use a mirror modifier. So let's take a look at doing that. So I'll press Ctrl R first off to add in an edge loop. That gets added to the center. I can left click once to accept it, and that gives me access to edge slide it along. If I left click now, it'll place it over here. However, if I right click, it will actually position it where it was added, and that is the center of these two vertices here. Okay, so that's what I want to do. I'm going to select these two verts then, press X and choose delete vertices. Over here on the modifiers tab, I can come up and add a modifier, and I'll choose mirror modifier. So it's set to the x-axis, so it's mirroring these two vertices here along the x-axis. So if I just zoom out a little bit, rotate around here, that red line indicates the x-axis. The y-axis would mirror front to back, and the z-axis would mirror up and down. So I'll just press 1, come back in here and zoom back in. Pan this over a little bit, maybe just zoom in a little bit more. Now we have another option over here that we can switch on, this one here. It just allows us to see the modifier in edit mode. Now one thing I'll say about that is, it is nice sometimes to see this. However, if I select this vertice here and press G and I move to the right, it's going to move the vertice to the right. However, if I select this vertice here on the mirrored side and press G and move to the left, it's going to actually move to the right. Okay, and that can be confusing sometimes depending what stage you're working at. So I'm going to right click. So I always try and select the vertice on the side that is being mirrored rather than the opposite side. And that way it's just a little bit less confusing. So let's take a look then at maybe forming the outline of the mouth here. So with this vertice selected, I'll press and hold Shift, select this, and I'll press E to extrude and drag this down here. Left click. Now I'm going to come right the way around here. So as I'm coming along, I'd like to kind of maintain nice edge flow. And in this case, it just means that as I'm transitioning from a horizontal to a vertical, I can position these vertices a little bit off top to bottom. And that way the mesh begins to flow as it's coming down along here. So I'm just going to select these and just drag them apart a little bit. And just help form that natural curve that we need as we're coming around top to the bottom of the mouth here. So I'll select the next two vertices here, press E, extrude these down a little bit. Left click, again, select the next vert, press G and just maybe drag this out. Maybe select this and drag it up. I'm going to try and maintain a large mouth to begin with. It's easy to extrude in later. Okay, so I'm going to keep right to the edge of the outline. Now, one thing I did forget to enable over here. So if I select a center vert and I press G, you can see how they come apart. That's not a good idea. So I'm going to right click. So over here on the mirror modifier, I'm going to enable clipping. And that way, if I press G now with this vertex selected, it will only move along the Z axis. So these two are stuck together. And that's what you want. You want the center vertices to be in exactly the same position. And that way you don't get any issues with the mesh. So I'll continue on, select some of these and just position them a little bit better. Maybe just expand the opening a little bit. And just select these and position them. I'll select these two again and extrude. Left click. I might just drag these back here. I'd like to have 5 extrusions until we get down to here. So I can maybe reduce these in a little bit. I'll select these two again, press E to extrude. So I can press Z actually, and just to keep that in line, maybe left click approximately here. I'll select this vert, then press G. And drag this down, kind of mirror what's happening on this angle here. So I want the same thing approximately here. It's not too important, but it's good just to begin correctly. So I'm going to select these two, maybe press G and X and just drag these out a little bit. Like I said, I want to keep to the edge of the opening there. So I can just spend the time and just get this shape in the way I think it should be. Okay, and I can maybe drag this down a little bit. Okay, pretty good. I'll select these two verts then. I can press E to extrude around a little bit more. Maybe select this one, press G, drag this over. Something like this. Shift select this, extrude then in the X and just join these in together. And then I can come back and just maybe adjust some of these a little bit, just help form that shape of the mouth. And just try and get that nice edge flow and shape as we're forming this curve here. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So that's the process then really of just in a front orthographic, adding in your 2D plane and just forming the shape in a two-dimensional way in the beginning. And later on, as we have the face shaped out in our front view, we can begin to form it into a three-dimensional shape. That's just the beginning then of the character's mouth. But for the moment, I'm going to leave it there for this one. I'm just going to continue and expand the mask a little bit further. We'll just try and maintain good topology as we're coming around here. Just keep an eye on the vertices as we're positioning them. So let's get started. So let's continue then, and I'm going to select these 4 vertices here. Press E to extrude, press C just to restrict it to the Z axis and just drag it up to here. So these points here are just going to represent the tip of the character's nose. So I'll leave them there. I'll select this outside vert now and just drag this in a little bit, approximately here. I can shift select all of these then and extrude this up. Again, I'm going to restrict it to the Z axis, left click. Now what I might do is maybe drag in these a little bit, so I can select these 3 here, maybe press G, drag them in. Select this, maybe just drag it up there, corner, and maybe just drag that in there. Okay, so I'll select these here. Can pan this down a little bit. Press E then, extrude this up. Again, restrict it to the Z axis just to keep that aligned there, left click. Now I might just select some of these vertices as I'm coming along here. I'm just going to drag these in a little bit. Maybe this is the outside section of the nose there. This one, I'm going to select it and just drag it in as it's coming back up here. Maybe drag it up forward. I can shift select these then, pan this down. Again, I'm going to extrude up. Maybe somewhere like this. Again, I can restrict it to the Z axis and just drag it up to here approximately. I can left click. Select these 2 vertices now. So next I'll press E through these across here. I might just press X to restrict it to the X. I'll press S and Z and scale these down a little bit, approximately here. Maybe just drag them back ever so slightly. So I want to form the eyes. And what I'd like to do is keep right to the outline and keep the eyes as large as possible. So I'll select these 2 vertices. I'll press E to extrude. can drag these down approximately here. So it's going to be an angle. So one here, I can select this vertex, maybe press G and just line it up a little bit better. Shift select this one then, and again, extrude, press X to restrict it to the X axis, come across to here. Maybe select this, press G, just help with that angle. I can actually do the same thing here. Maybe drag this one back a little bit. So as we're coming around, kind of forming that shape. So again, I can extrude, left click, select this vertex, just drag it out slightly. Shift select this, extrude again. Maybe press Z just to restrict it to the Z axis, approximately here. I'll select this vertex, press G, Z, and just drag this up here. Left click, I can shift select this, press E, drag this up here, and just form this as I'm coming around here. So maybe I'll shift select these, press G, just drag it up a little bit, just to help maintain maximum size for the eyes there. Again, extrude across in the X. I can left click, maybe select this, press G, X, just drag it across. And finally, I want to shift select these vertices and fill it in as a face. So with these selected, I'll press F and that fills in that there. Okay, I might just select these two here and press G and just drag these back over a little bit. Same thing with these two here, select them, press G and left click. Okay, I'm going to pan this up a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is shift select all of these up to this one here, and I want to extrude these out. So I'll press E and extrude these out a little bit, maybe something like this. Now these ones up here need to be dragged down, so I'll select maybe this, press G, drag it over here like so. Select this one, press G, and this one, and press G. So I do want to come out a small bit, but at the same time, I do want to follow the line of the previous edge approximately. It's not too important right now. It's easy to align these later, but I'm just going to keep them kind of tidy at the moment. It's easier to visualize how the deformation of the character's mouth might happen, and I want to just maintain good edge flow as I'm coming around here. So I'll select this vertex here, shift select this, I'll press Alt M for the merge menu, and I'll choose merge at last, so it merges to the last vertex selected. Okay, so I'll choose that. Okay, so I'd spend a little bit of time and just make sure you have nice clean topology. Okay, but for the moment I'm going to leave it there for this one. We're going to go ahead and just begin to form the character's face by pulling the vertices forward in a side view here and just positioning them to the profile of the side view image. This is a very slow process and I'd just recommend taking your time. So let's get started. So to begin this, I'll maybe select this vert here and drag it out a little bit. I didn't have this really in a good position. The same with this one. And then I'll select this, shift select these other three vertices here and press F to fill that in. I can select these four here and fill this in. I can adjust some of these here, so I'm just going to drag them back in a little bit. I want to make a little bit more space for myself as I'm coming along down here. So I'm going to select maybe this and all of these vertices around here. And again, I can press E to extrude this out a little bit. Drag it out and down slightly so I can actually select this vertex and maybe press G and just drag this down. And with these ones, again, just position them and try and keep that nice edge flow coming down on the vertical and around as I'm coming around here. So again, I can press G, drag some of these out. I'll select this one, shift select this one here, Alt M for the merge menu, and again I'll choose merge at the last vertex. Okay, with this one selected, I can shift select all of these, press E, just drag this out slightly. I can select this now straight away, shift select this, Alt M, and choose merge at last. And then I can select these and just position them a little bit better. Can zoom out and maybe select this one here, drag it down and just position them. Okay, so again, I'm going to shift select finally to make a last extrusion around the edge here. So all of these selected, press E, extrude, maybe just drag down slightly, left click. I'll select these then, press G. I'm going to come out right out to the outline of the character's face here. So I'll select this, drag this out. And I can maybe just select some of these then and just position them a little bit better. I can zoom in down here, select this one, come to the outline, and this one here, come right down. give myself a little bit of space here. It's a little bit cramped, so I can just add a little bit of space there. Now I'm going to focus on just matching one side rather than matching the other. It's slightly off for some reason on the geometry. Now it was symmetrical at one stage, but for some reason it's not showing up symmetrical in Blender. So I'm just going to work with matching up the outline on the right hand side rather than trying to match both sides, because that would be just confusing. Drag that maybe up here. Let's take a look then at the next process in this, and that is to position these vertices from a side view and begin to give the character's face a little bit of form. So if I come up here to the layout tab here, I can right click and click duplicate. I'll double click on this and I'll just rename this to double. Press enter, and that way I just know it's my double screen. I'll press N just to remove the sidebar here. I'll then come up to the corner of the 3D view here, hover the mouse here, get the little plus icon. I can left click and hold and drag across, and that just opens up a second window. I might just press T to hide the toolbar here and also press T to hide it here. Now over here in this sidebar, I'll press numpad 3. You can also press the apostrophe key and bring up the view menu. You can also come up to view up here. You can come down to viewpoint and you can switch into a side view here. So you can choose right or left. And you can see over here then it has the shortcut key. Okay, so over here, I'll hand this over. I'll press A to select everything. What I'm going to do is just line up this at the front of the ear here so I can pull everything forward. So I'll press G and Y, drag this back, and just place it approximately at the beginning of the ears here. Just going to drag this across here. I can zoom in a little bit, maybe pan this down, and over here, I'll zoom in and just position this face. So the next stage then is to select the vertices from the front view, and you know where they are. So if I select this one here, that we know that that's approximately this position in the side view. So over here I can press G and Y and drag that vertice forward and position it using the profile of this image here. So all the center vertices are going to approximately be positioned along this profile here. Okay, so let's work down along with the first ones. So I'll select this one, press GY, drag that across here. And I'm going to come to the furthest most point with all the vertices in the center here. So I'll select this one, press GY, drag that across. Select the next one down, press GY and drag that across. And repeat the process. So select this. Okay, and if I just press and hold the middle mouse button, come around here, I'll press Z, bring up solid, and we can see that we're beginning to put a three-dimensional shape on the character's face here. So we can see that all the center vertices are now dragged into a position on the outline. The next stage is to select the next row of vertices and then position them approximately where you imagine they might be. In this case, this vertice here, if I press 1 to come back into front view, this may be slightly back from the first vertice, so you could approximately follow down at a little bit of an offset to the front. But as you select the vertices, you can kind of imagine where they may be in the side view. So for example, if I select this one here, I'm going to press Z actually and come back to wireframe. It's a little bit easier to see the vertices that are selected. And back over here, I'll press G and Y and just repeat the process to drag this in. So I'll maybe just leave it approximately here, select the next one down. Now I find that if you select each row, so for example, if I select the second row, I'm going to maintain the second row right down. And then I'll move across and I'll select the third row. And I'll try and position all the third row and then maybe work on the eyes and then maybe work on the remaining sections here. So all these rows across here. So let's just continue with this one for the moment. I'm going to press G, Y, drag that across here. And I'll just work down again on this row here. and left click when I'm finished. Okay, so that's going to be the process. What I might do is just continue to select these vertices in here, and I'll continue to just position them in the correct position. Now, I wouldn't be too concerned at this stage about the accuracy, but it does take time to position these correctly. So take your time, and just between videos, I'll position the remaining of these verts, and we can take a look then when we get back at how it's looking. Okay, but for the moment, I'm going to leave it there for this one. Go ahead and just continue to shape the character's head. So let's get started. So the first thing I'll do is just press Z and come back to solid shading and take a look at this. I'm going to press and hold the middle mouse button. So I've gone ahead and just gone around and just pulled all the points forward into the position I think they should be in. Okay, it's a little bit rough right now, but if I come over to the modifiers tab here and just minimize the mirror modifier, I'll click add modifier. And down here we can choose the subdivision surface modifier, bump up the views to 2 on this. And I might just check on this option here just so we can see how the face is looking. And if I come back over here, I can press and hold and just have a look around at this. Now there's a couple of obvious pieces that I need to fix up, and it's the likes of this here. So you can see how the curve comes from the center down to here. It's very staggered in and out. So I could just come along and press G and Y and drag some of these vertices into a better position, just to give this a nicer curve. And I could also drag this one back slightly just to help with that. So you can see how that can straight away clean that up. Now I could probably bring some of these forward. Maybe the mouth is opening a little bit too wide, a little bit too far back in the Y direction. So I could select some of these in the side view and just drag them forward. So for example, if I select these here, maybe press G and Y, I can drag these back as one. And then just work around and reshape that a little bit. But in general, with the subdivision surface modifier on it, it's not looking too bad at this stage. There are some definite places where I could maybe select some of these and just drag them forward just to help shape the character a little bit better. Maybe drag this forward in the Y a little bit. Maybe drag it down in the Z. And again, with these, I can select them and just maybe drag them forward. So that would be the process. Just work around, take a look, and take your time to just examine it and see if there are any vertices that are in the completely wrong place. So for example, if I drag that back there, you can see that any areas like this, you want to just go back into front view and side view and just make sure that that vertex is in the correct position. Just going to press Ctrl Z to undo that. Okay, but in general, that's not looking too bad. I'd be pretty happy. I'm going to come back over and just switch off the visibility of that subdiv modifier. And back over here, I can press numpad 1, and I'm going to press Z and bring up wireframe. So let's take a look then at continuing and just extruding the rest of the character's head. So I'll select these vertices right the way across here. And maybe in side view, I can zoom in. I'll press E and just begin to extrude this back up here. Just keeping into the profile there. I'm going to come back to solid over here, press and hold the middle mouse button. Now, straight away, I'm going to correct some of these vertices because as I'm extruding back, I don't want this shape right the way back on my character's head. So I'll just zoom in over here. And what I might do actually is just select all of these, press S, Y, and 0, and just scale those straight away to the same position on the Y axis. And I can press S, Z, and 0 and scale them to the same position on the Z axis. And that just helps to have these in the same position. So over on the side view, I can just drag this forward a little bit, left click. Now they're not exactly going to be on the same position. So if I come into front view, you could start selecting these slightly and maybe dragging them. Just a little bit off. They don't need to be exactly in the same position on the Z axis, but definitely on the Y axis. You don't want too many bumps in the character as you're moving forward. So what I might do actually is just select these front vertices, and over here in the side view, I'm going to press E and just extrude these back to the profile of the character's head. Okay, so I'll continue that. So I'll press E. And left click. Okay, and it's probably easier to just do this in stages. So for example, we can see that as I'm coming around here, this outer edge is a little bit high in comparison to the center. So what I might do is just I'll select this front vertex here. I can come around to the back here. maybe I can control click this one here, and that way it selects all the vertices straight back. So over here I'll press G and Z, just drag this up, and I'll do the same thing with this one here. I'll select this here, rotate around to the front, I can zoom in, control click here to select all those vertices, and zoom in over here, press G, Z, and just drag that up slightly in the Z axis. Now I don't want to come above the center one, obviously. I want to keep that nice curve there. And I can do the same thing. I might select this one here, rotate to the back, maybe control click this one, and just zoom in over here so I can have a look. And in the side view, press G and Z and just drag this down here and just begin to get that shape that I'd expect. So that kind of a curve across the top of the head. It's a lot easier to have the correct shape at this stage, and that way you don't have to go back and select every vertice and correct them. It takes a long time. So as you're extruding back, try and maintain a good shape to the mesh. That's what I'd say at this stage. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate around here. The next thing I'm going to do is maybe select these 3 vertices here. I'll press 1 for front view just to come into a front view. Over here then I can just zoom out, and again I'm going to match the position of these vertices. So I'll press E to extrude, and I'll extrude up to approximately here, and I'll just repeat the process then, just extrude and match the position approximately of the number of vertices as I come back along here. Okay, and with that done, I'm just going to press and hold the middle mouse button over here, and I can zoom in. So again, like before, what I want to do is really maybe select this vertex here and control click maybe this one here. I can drag this down in the Z a little bit, so G, Z, drag this down here. I might just press 1 just to get an idea of this. I might just press G and just drag this across here a little bit. Something like this. Okay, that wouldn't be too bad. I can rotate around the back. Maybe select this vertex here. Control click, select this, press G and Y, drag that forward slightly, just to kind of maintain that curve. I can select this vertex here, double tap G to edge slide it, and just edge slide some of these back along here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm going to come back around over here, and I'm going to select these 4 vertices here and press F to fill that in. I'll select this one and press F, and that will just automatically fill in right the way around to the back if I continue to press F. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we can see that we have a little bit of a bunched up issue here at the front, so let's take a look at kind of correcting that. So I'm just going to come back around to the front here. What I'm going to do is separate these verts out a little bit. So if I double tap G with these selected, I can spread out the center vertices a little bit more, and that will just help reduce the bunched up look of them. So I'll just continue and just work my way around here. Just select these and give these a little bit of space. Okay, and with that done, then you can see that that definitely helps. Now I'm going to select some of these vertices here, and maybe just press G and Y and just drag these back, just to help form that a little bit more. I can do the same thing with these ones. Press G and Z and just drag these up a little bit. Minor little tweaks. Let's come back into the front view here, take a look at this. Over here in the side view, I'm just going to zoom in. So the next thing to do is maybe extrude this section here back. So I'll select these two vertices here, and maybe this one and this one here. And over in the side view here, I can press E to extrude and just drag these back here. Left click. Back here, I'm going to press 1 for front view. I can press G, drag these out, just to help get it roughly in position for the head there. I can rotate back around here. So I'll select this vertice, maybe fill these 4 up here. Press F to do that. Maybe select this one again. I'm going to press 1. Press G, drag that out a little bit. Press G, drag that one. And over in the side view, I'm going to press Z, bring up solid shading. Select these vertices here, these 6 here, and I can press E and extrude, drag these forward slightly. And over here in the front view, I'll press G and drag them across, just out a little bit, so they're approximately the correct diameter of the head. So I'll select this one and maybe drag it back in a little bit. Same thing with this one down here, it's a little bit far out. Just want to maintain that shape of the head. Okay, pretty good. So over in the side view, I'll maybe select these 4 here and fill that up. I can maybe select these vertices again and press extrude. And again over here in the side view, I'll press G and just drag them out slightly. And I can select the ones that are a little bit too far out and just drag them back in individually. So let's keep it simple for the moment. Let's connect these together. So with this one selected, I'm going to press and hold Shift, select this, Alt M, and merge at last. And just connect these up. I'll select this vertice, Shift, select this one, press Shift and R, and that way it just repeats the last command. So it just merges those together. I'll repeat the process here. Shift select both of these and Shift R, and Shift select both of these, Shift R, Shift select both of these, Shift R, this one here and this one, and Shift R. Okay, I'm going to press Control R to add an edge loop here. Just edge slide this back slightly. Select this vertice and these 3 here and press F to fill that in. And if I select this one, I can press G, just drag it over here. Select the 4 of these. Press F, and finally we have this space here to fill in, so I can just fill that in there. Okay, so I'm going to press and hold the middle mouse button just to come around here and take a look. Maybe select some of these, maybe double tap G just to edge slide these forward a little bit. Same thing with this here, maybe edge slide these back. I'll press 3 just to come back into side view over here. I'm going to switch back on the subdivision surface modifier and take a look at this. Now, one handy little tool if you want to move more than one vertex at a time, and that's proportional editing. So if I come up the top here and just drag this across, I can switch it on up here with proportional editing. There's a fall off menu here. I'm going to leave it set to smooth. So for example, if you select this vertex here and press G, there is an area of influence. You can see right now it's pulling the whole mesh. So if I just roll the mouse wheel forward, it reduces the area of influence. And when it's reduced, then it affects less of the vertices around it, but at the same time it still helps to get a nicer shape on the mesh. So I'm going to select a couple of these and just use proportional editing to shape this head a little bit more. Okay, so something like this. And you can work around the character and you can use that. It's a good way to get a little bit of volume into certain areas that are difficult to do without it. So I'm just going to press 1. I'm going to switch that off now for the moment. This little formation here, how I might deal with that is if I just press and hold the middle mouse button and come around here and zoom in. I'll try and match this section here. So what I'll do here is select the first vertex, press and hold Shift, select this, press Alt M, for the merge menu and choose at last there. And what that gives us then are 2 quads. And what we can do with these, if I press 3, is join them together. So I can select both of these faces, press the F key, and that fills that in. I'll press 1 for vertex selection. And what I'm going to do is reshape some of the front of this mesh, alleviate some of that bunching up here, select some of these vertices here and drag them down. Let's come around here. I'll be taking this edge here and just dragging it down slightly. So maybe select some of these, double tap G, and just edge slide them out a little bit. And I'll repeat that process for all of these. So if I press 1, so these edges here in particular will be coming around maybe the side of the head a little bit more. So I'm going to go around, select these vertices and just drag them down the head a little bit more, and generally just divide up this space here a lot more. So effectively I will be alleviating that bunching up there by just edge sliding some of these vertices over and around by the side of the head there, and just follow along them with the rest of these here. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and just continue to reshape this mesh a little bit, but for the moment I'm going to leave it there for this one.